Patch 11.1 makes the War Within look unfinished. 8 game-changing features. Look, I just talked about it. 11.1 to me, at least the difference between Season 1 and Season 2, if we're talking about Mythic Plus, some of the biggest changes we've ever seen in the game between 2 seasons. We know a lot of cool stuff is coming, the renown track and raid. I mean, just huge game-changing things in a .1 patch. It's pretty crazy. I think Undermine so far is lining up to be pretty good. They've listened to a lot of feedback about Season 1 and how everything went. Let's see what Bellular has to say about why this is going to make the game look unfinished.
Okay, here's the deal, everyone. Patch 11.1 is actually more than just the typical major content patch, and that's not really like a fluffy statement from me. That's because
I agree.
Serious problems at the core of World of Warcraft became super apparent during Season 1, and rather than the usual where Blizzard just waits until the next expansion to actually tackle that stuff, they're actually making giant changes in the here and now. We're going to talk about all of that, as well as all of the content in 11.1, meaning that in this video, you'll learn everything.
It's refreshing because Blizzard's listened to feedback. It's very obvious that they have, because a lot of the changes they're making in Season 2 are just going towards making it easier, making it more accessible, making it more rewarding, and these are literally the things people have been complaining about in Season 1, so they're listening.
So let's get into it. And I've actually got an important tool to share with you. Important because it solves a real problem that's actually hit my family. Spam calls. They've hit me, hit my family, and I know people who've lost money because
spam calls? I've been getting a lot of those, honestly.
Stress. Today's sponsor is Incogni, and they are your way not only to fight back, but most importantly, to protect yourself.
Siren Isles was small.
That BS. You see, when our
I think part of the lack of content in the Siren Isles patch has to do with how big 11.1 is going to be in terms of changes. So I think if we could take anything from how kind of lackluster this last patch was, it's because this next patch is about to be fucking massive. It's about to be a big boy. The city looks small. Undermine is not a huge city. It's not the size of Surabaya or anything, but it's got a lot of content in it, it seems. It's content-packed. Sam has a small peepee, true.
That is where incogni.com
but we can use Incogni to change that.
Comes in. Once you're
Maybe.
in, you just add your emails, your phone numbers, and your home addresses. You can do that for your family as well.
Oh no, it's a spam blocker,
Here's
so we
really
can't
cool,
use it to change that.
You've got the legal right to get your data taken down from data brokers, but actually doing that is tiresome, and it's manual, and it's just whack-a-mole because your data can be reharvested. Now, what Incogni does is it automatically sends the takedown requests and adds you to suppression lists, which basically blocks recollection, but then it
still going,
rescans to keep your data down. And here are my personal results.
Boost your confidence.
Look at my dashboard. 150 requests.
Sorrow, you just got to watch 1 hour of stream to get a point.
I haven't touched it since October.
Type exclamation point points in the chat to see how many you currently have.
Since October, well, I've been removed from 35 more brokers. And I straight up don't get robocalls anymore, which is awesome.
That is pretty awesome.
Join today at incogni.com/BellularNews and you'll get 60% off an annual plan. Though we begin with something different because you'll be able to drive a car. Now, do you remember how much better dragon riding felt once you actually got your hands on it and you weren't just watching previews? This system is that, but really on the next level.
Wow, is that new? The kind of light streaks here? This looks pretty cool. They've made so many changes to this since they first launched it, and we saw with the beta and everything. It looks much better. The way you bounce off of walls, it just feels fast. I haven't used it yet or done it, but just visually, this whole system looks much like they've improved upon it a lot during beta.
Undermine is a city that is made for drifting around at max speed, and it is legit some of the most fun you can have in WoW that isn't combat. Like, if laps around Dalaran was an issue for you back in the day, you're going to be screwed with this. Now, you'll also be able to farm out upgrades. Well, I say upgrades, they're almost more side grades. So you've got a starting engine, starting tires, and a boost combo that's very much the middle of the road one. But then through 11.1 content like rares, races, and stuff, you'll be able to make your car easier to control but slower, or make it be able to hit extreme speeds at the cost of acceleration and handling. Basically that Mario Kart stuff. And Blizzard really went all in making this feel good. Again, our first impression was that it needed some work, but thankfully they've actually...
Here, the thing is, they put so much work into this drive system, I'm having a hard time believing that this is just meant for the Undermine patch and then it's gone. I do think that this could potentially be the start of, some dynamic ground mount stuff. I don't think we're going to have necessarily lightsabers that run at the speed that these cars do, but just some of the abilities, the ability to drift, maybe jump, to certain things. I'm hoping we get a version of this that leads to dynamic ground mounts, because that would make, ground mounts relevant again.
done that work, and now it really is quite awesome.
My
Especially
PC can't handle the drive
look,
system.
to feel, and all those little details that were
You need high refresh rate for sure.
First was on PTR. But even with all those improvements, this will not be for everyone. This is not what you sign up to when you play World of Warcraft. So the car is there for traversal, but it's not massively integrated into content. So if you're not the biggest fan of this, you really won't have to worry much about it. It's a fun way to get around, but you're not really going to be punished super heavily for not using it, because otherwise Undermine is still a very navigable place.
These races look
Delves
fun.
then, they've basically just got serious because our major complaints from Season 1 have been mostly solved. They're now a serious way to play the game, and to start that off, I'll talk about gear. So Gilded Crests are the best crests in the game, right? Those are the best upgrade crests. Those now drop from tier 11
By the way, can I fuck these names? Honestly, screw all the damn names for all the damn crests and the stones and the shit and the just give it a myth. Just make it myth track, heroic track, you know, normal track, and I don't know, whatever, regular track. I don't know what you want to call the bottom ones, but these naming systems, I forget what this is called every 5 minutes. I can't keep track of all this shit. They just need to fix the naming system so it's just once across the board and that's it. You'll know the difficulty of it by just looking at it.
With a weekly
Gilded
cap,
is the best.
and then tiers 9 through 11 have actually been nerfed a bit in terms of their difficulty, which actually does make sense.
Easy, medium, hard.
It means that instead of being a prestige challenge mode for masochists, they're now an intended bit of content for you to do as you gear up your character. That effectively means the delves are just way more of a journey. You can play them for more, for longer.
Yeah.
The whole delve track is relevant. That's kind of the rub. And if you're a healer or you're a DPS who prefer doing delves with a tank, there's good news. Bran can also tank now, and he's actually really good at tanking. I mean, in our testing, tier 11s almost became pretty easy whenever we had really leveled up Bran and really got gear. It was actually pretty damn fun. Now,
that's pretty cool. And one thing about him tanking is, like, if you're healing, the higher you keep his health, the more damage he does as a tank too. So there's some interesting mechanics with all of that. And giving people gilded crests in delves basically allows those solo players who don't really like to do grouped up content a way to get some of the best gear in the game and push their item level even higher than they've ever been to. They won't get myth track gear, but because they're getting heroic gear basically from their vaults every week, they'll be able to push it to the max level, whereas in previous seasons with your delves, you wouldn't have been able to push it to max level because you weren't getting gilded crests.
There are other improvements as well to delves. Remember those Delvers bounty maps that were pure RNG? Really annoying? Now you're going to be guaranteed to get one each week. Now
Who the hell went and made a fucking name Sam's Bald Spot? Somebody went on Twitch and just fucking made a profile called Sam's Bald Spot and then came to my chat Jesus Christ. This is a new level.
Be able to get that one each week, but at least you will get it for sure, and you're not going to be screwed around by some background dice roll. Now, they've also nerfed gear a tiny bit, but overall, you're going to be able to gear up way more. Tier 6s now give Veteran 2 instead of 3, Tier 8s now give Champion 2 instead of 8, and Tier 8 Vaults now give you Hero 1 instead of Hero 3. Which is a minor nerf, but it is more than made up for by the guaranteed bounty and the new crest buffs. And that's not just that you can get gilded ones, it's also that the runed crests actually drop in a higher quantity when you're doing 9s and 10s versus, say, doing 8s right now. So that really is a big bonus.
Yeah, these are great changes. I mean, at the end of the day, what makes a WoW player happy? Rewards. So what makes content feel better? Giving better rewards. That's literally what they're doing here. They made delves more rewarding, which makes them more relevant, which makes them more fun to do. That's what this is all about, and it makes the game easier to play for people who just want to play it solo too.
So TLDR, higher delves are more relevant, they're easier to the point where they fit as content instead of a challenge mode, they're more rewarding, and Bran can tank. But also, it's not just the same delves. So there are 2 new ones in the Black Blood area and in the sewers of Undermine. Those are full new delves, and then there are goblin-themed variants for all of the existing delves. There's also a new Zekvir-like boss who's called the Underpin. Basically, he'll be there to mess around with your runs, and he'll be a boss that you can kill in a special, rare delve. He essentially works like Zekvir, but this time round, the rewards are actually really cool. So, there is a new delve mount that is called the Gobtrotter, and then you'll be able to get a golden skin for it.
Yeah, so I'll get this easy one-shot too, just like I did with Zekvir, so that's exciting. Seeing this mount, it's a nice-looking mount. It is.
Feeding that boss. And
It's got that
finally,
gold
you
shine
know
to it.
the undercoin gear that has been completely pointless? Well, it's going to be
Yeah.
upgraded to veteran track from adventurer. That means that if you're doing loads of delves and you have alts, you will get, by default, great catch-up gear for those characters.
Nice.
Raids are changing, and hopefully they're changing forever. There is a new raid-specific renown track, and if you hear
Yes.
renown track and immediately you think, dear lord, don't make me grind for something else,
No, this is
ideally
good.
it won't be like that.
This thing is going to be amazing. I think it's going to change raiding forever. A renown track that essentially rewards you just for going into the raid and killing bosses. And you're constantly not only getting rewards like mounts and transmog and things like that, but you're getting buffs. You're getting stronger. Your healing output's going higher. Your DPS output's going higher. Your tanking is getting better. Everything, you are getting buffed via this renown track too. It's great. We watched the interview or talked about the interview yesterday with the rewards team from World of Warcraft, and they said if this thing is unsuccessful, they're going to pull it. But to them, they think that this is like basically a culmination of everything they've been doing in WoW, finally leading to this new reward system for raiding, and I think it's going to be a massive success. I'm excited for it.
So first
Same, your
off,
tanking
we
isn't
tested
getting
a few
better.
bosses in the raid, and the bosses were actually super
I
fun,
guess.
so that is a good start. But systemically, the renown track is a proper game changer, and that's mostly because a renown track needs rewards. Raids ideally should have quality of life features, and Blizzard have had loads of improvements that they could have made for years, and we're basically going to be getting that. And the upshot will mean that as you're raiding, you'll get cool new stuff every week. Now, the big driver here is that there is a stacking damage and healing buff. Now, that's something we've seen in the game before. We actually saw it in the previous raid, but it was done via quests and a currency that you would, like, track between all of your different characters. It was not elegant, so now that's just baked into the account.
This is much better. Does the reward system swap specs for you? I'm not sure what are you saying. Like it doesn't reward you any specific gear. It gives you charges though for your catalyst, so you can get spec specific. You know, you just basically get tier gear out of it. Plus, you'll that's the main gear component of it. Otherwise, it's giving you buffs, and it's buffs across the board. So if you're healing, you're buffed. Whether you're healing, DPSing, or tanking, depending on whatever you switch between, you are buffed via this track. Not me for you. Oh, okay. You're asking if it's going to switch me off a take. Okay, you're taking a shot at me. All right.
Renown track.
I was
There's
trying to have a
also
fucking
other
legitimate
cool things like the free
conversation.
augment
I
rooms
forgot that my chat is filled with fucking degenerates. So my bad. Okay.
Sure that has upgrades later. Raid skips that are built in with no quests or jank. Profession tables in the raid, transmog and item upgrades, vendors and NPCs in the raid, an instant raid hearth to the hub area of the raid.
That's nice.
Walk speed movement boosts when you're not in combat, an auction house, and even a self-resurrection tool that you can use to recover from raid wipes.
Perfect.
So yes, somebody can just self-res and then mass-res the whole team, which will save you having to run back. That's honestly goddamn huge. Now, there's also 3 gorgeous mounts that come from the raid. They're based on bosses and raid enemies. You'll get the big cool dinosaur.
Yeah,
I love
this
that.
one, man.
And there's
So
also
cool.
a global raid teleport once you max out that renown. So a little bit like how Mythic Plusers, if they do the dungeon or really hard difficulty, they unlock a teleport portal for it. You can get that, but for the raid, which is quite
basically they're giving us a lot of the quality of life changes that we've asked for in World of Warcraft raiding via this renown track. A lot of this stuff comes from Final Fantasy too, but rezzing after a fight, teleporting to the raid, basically things that'll just make everything easier. They're even giving you speed buffs, like outside of combat, running faster, right? So you can get back to things quicker. Awesome stuff.
Nice. So far, so good, but then there's the topic of dinars. And if you didn't play during Shadowlands Season 4, you're probably thinking, what the hell is a dinar? Basically, it's just a token, right? And it's a token that you could trade in for a really good bit of gear. So early on in the PTR, they had dinars, basically the items that you pick a very rare item or weapon that you want from the raid from a vendor, right? Now, Blizzard removed those because there were complaints, including from me, that they were too late in the renown track, with the implication being that we maybe get them in another, unannounced way instead. So right now, they're just not there. So Blizzard are probably going to do something. Let's hope it's decently fast. And there is one other bit of awkward news here. The renown is capped, yes.
I mean,
thing here. So
I don't know what to say about this. It's not a good thing, but maybe they were worried about people just blasting through the renown track early on. But yes, it is time gated, and it's time gated more than it should be. I think there's 20 of these, so I think it's supposed to go 20 weeks. So before you get the T-Rex mount at the very end, it'll be 20 weeks after the raid opens, which to me is kind of crazy. That's a long time to continue raiding, but we'll see if it works for them. I think it should have been like maybe 10 weeks. 10 weeks would have made more sense to me. 20 just seems excessive.
So it's a bit awkward. Basically, the
Time
cap
gated
goes
like your
up by
baldness. I wish. My fucking the balding is time accelerated.
per week, and it starts off at renown 2. There is a catch-up system.
Yeah, kind of brutal today.
Raid,
Yeah,
or you come back
every day.
in later patches or even expansions, which is frustrating to me because look, I would love to raid for like 10 weeks and then chill afterwards.
Time warp, yeah.
I don't want a situation where I have to raid and raid and raid and raid and do that for basically 20 weeks to max out the renown. That just feels a bit silly. I get why Blizzard are doing this. I think that railroading us is just not ideal, but overall, this is a big improvement over not having a system like this. They'll just need to...
And by the way, to like advance down the renown track, if you don't know this, each one of those renowns is going to take you to get like about halfway through the raid. But here's the thing, you can do it on any difficulty. So say you kill 2 bosses on heroic, but you can't get to that 4th or 5th. You can go do normal, do 2 more bosses, and then go do LFR, do another boss, and then bam, you get your renown track. For that week. It is not limited to any single difficulty. So you could just do any type of rating, even LFR. I don't know. Don't quote me on LFR. But normal, heroic, mythic for sure, all contribute to the renown track. Actually, I think LFR does too. So just getting in there and rating will get you this renown every single week. And it's just like getting through the first halfway through the bosses.
Nail whatever they do with the dinars. I think we could be onto something very big for the future. And it also has got a nice long-term implication for the game. This is a renown that is, number one, account-wide, so all of this stuff will just be there for all of your characters, but also it will persist long into the future. So if you miss this patch, you come back later, you can go and grind your way through the raid and get a bunch of rewards, which is good for the health of the game. And speaking of the health of the game, well, Mythic Plus is getting huge changes.
Yeah, Mythic Plus is massive. But before he goes, I always hear how Classic is better. Why do you prefer retail if that's the case? I like retail. I do. I played Classic back when it was retail. I've been playing this since 2005, so I enjoyed Classic for what it was. But to me, I don't like to play a game that I feel like I feel like Classic's kind of pointless. Like there's an end to it, it's not going to continue on. Maybe you could talk about Season of Discovery, but even then it just feels all like, I don't know, like I'm doing it all for nothing. Like it's not the real game. I like retail for what it is. Does it have issues? Yeah, it does. But I like the new raids. I like getting into new content. I like advancing the story. I like feeling like my character that I've been playing for 15, 20 years is moving on to new and big things. For me, retail is where it's at. I don't hate people who like Classic. That's fine. They pay a sub and support the game just the same way I do, so that works. But Classic is fun for what it is. It was a great game back then, and it's still a great game now. But to me, it's just like there's an end to it. So I don't find like putting time into it to be valuable.
For a long time, it's felt like Blizzard just haven't got it with Mythic Plus. Now it actually feels like they might get it, like they might understand the community. Number one, we've got a new dungeon right away, and that is something we have not had in the game for a while. And we've got Mythic Plus updates that do seem to understand how much of a nightmare the previous season had been.
Yeah.
First
They get it.
big thing is that Mythic Plus is going to be easier, a lot easier. Blizzard nerfed the scaling per key, and that basically means that the progression curve is a lot smoother.
It's easier,
it just doesn't scale up as rapidly.
Good.
Affixes now start off as well, even later. There's no affix active until +4, and then Tyrannical or Fortified only kick in at +7. Now, also, do you remember the 15-second death penalty affix? The good news is that's gone, right? That's gone.
Yes.
It's being baked into Xalatath's Guile, which is present at Mythic +12, which is basically just the difficulty that exists for people who like to push keys, and it's also on Xalatath's Guile, replacing the bonus stats that made those keys scale even higher. So that's massive. Mythic Plus is also going to be more rewarding. Hero gear now drops from Mythic 6s.
Freaking amazing.
Crests now drop from Mythic 7s.
Such good changes. Basically, they downscaled everything. They made it easier at the front end and more rewarding at the front end. So people getting into Mythic Plus will find the entire experience to be so much better than it was in Season 1. Season 1 was a complete shit show. You jump in, you're hitting a difficulty wall that's unbelievable, plus you're not getting any rewards for it, so you try to go higher up in the keys. By going higher up in the keys, you're dealing with not getting invited to anything because your IO isn't high enough. And then finally, when you get invited, you get fucking face rolled because it's too difficult for what you're used to, because you didn't do the earlier keys, but you didn't do the earlier keys because there wasn't good rewards for those earlier keys. It's like it was a never-ending feeding on itself cycle of viciousness. And finally, I think it's going to end in Season 2. I think this is going to be a much better season. Yeah, I'm brand new. Decided to play Classic, but I think I'll join. Yeah, Classics is a very simple version of the game, too. It's nice, it's relaxing. But if you want, like, you finally want a challenge, you want to really, like, get into the game and dig in, figure out all the shit. Yeah, retail is where it's at, for sure.
Actually means you'll be able to max out a heroic geared character without having to go anything higher than a +7, and a +7 then will be easier than a +7 today.
Yes.
And if you do want to get Mythic geared, all you've got to do is weekly +10s for the Great Vault slots, and then farm out +7s for the crests. I think this basically is going to be good, because for the people for whom Mythic Plus is a just fun gearing journey, they like to feel more powerful, and then they set it down.
Much better.
I think this will support that playstyle way more. If you still like to push keys,
just letting you know that Samiccus has bricked a 2 while wearing a beaver fursuit. Live on Twitch. Bold.
None of that is fucking true. That's all fake news. I don't know where the fuck you just told YouTube that. Thank you, Malden. Fucking
be competitive. The good news is Mythic Plus is an infinitely scaling system. You can
fucking
find
all
your
fake
difficulty
news
as you push up those keys. And if that is your jam, there's a few little bonuses coming soon as well. Now, it's also not just that Blizzard are making the systems easier. That wouldn't matter if the dungeons were hell. Blizzard basically started making individual dungeons harder in the PTR, but then they reversed course and they started nerfing them like mad.
Nerf the shit out of them. They nerfed the shit out of them, just like I'm about to nerf this fucking chat today. The fuck is wrong with you guys? Somebody spike your coffees this morning? My God, I'm trying to teach you guys some shit here. You guys talking shit the whole time. Unbelievable.
So tanks and healers will have a less stressful time this season. Mob packs basically have got less dangerous mechanics than before. Blizzard really tried to find those times where a mob pack just had loads of really dangerous active abilities that could overlap, and they tried to just remove that. Now, they've also addressed a Twinkie dragon-shaped thorn in the game side with Ogvokers. Ogvokers do not buff healers or tanks anymore, and that basically means that they're not going to be meta-defining going forward to the point where people feel like they need one. There are a few other...
I don't know if Blizzard regrets augmentation evokers, but they are fucking giving them the hammer. And it's because they just became such a solid cornerstone of the meta, like basically required you have to bring them. So they don't like that. They want to get rid of that shit, and it's hard to do when you have a class that buffs everybody else, and you got an entire group of players that just love to parse their dicks off. What's the best way to parse? Well, parsing by getting buffed by somebody else too. That's a great thing. So yeah, they've nerfed augmentation pretty hard. I feel bad for people who've been maining them.
Changes as well, as an example.
They'll still be brought though, I'm sure.
Things that should be interrupted and are really important are actually now going to be longer. All of this is really good. This will, I think, be the easiest Mythic Plus season in quite a while, but easy has got a bunch of connotations to it. I would say that they're trying to make this an experience where you can achieve your goals, and you can keep on going higher if you want. It just seems like they've got a better designed curve of difficulty that will fit more players. And that will be useful because you'll actually want to hit rating 3000 this time around, which might scare you if you think about Mythic Plus right now, but remember, these dungeons are easier. That's because they have finally added a new mount for Keystone Legend as well as Hero.
And
this time, it's the Enterprising Shredder Tank, which looks awesome. That's going to mean doing all dungeons.
That's not it, by the way. That's not it. He's maybe this was a this is just the Keystone Master mount. The 3000 version of it, if you get a 3000 IO, is a blacked out version of this with red eyes. It's pretty damn cool. But yeah, this is your regular Keystone Master. This is the was it good over 2000 rating. You'll get this mount, which is cool. The rewards wise, this patch is filled with rewards for sure. The rewards team freaking pumped it out this time around.
At Mythic Plus 13, so good luck, but again, it will be nowhere near as hellish as doing all of them at 13 right now today. We will be back in a few days with a video covering everything in massive detail, so be sure to check that out. But yeah, it's good vibes. The next thing to talk about, which is mostly good, is class changes. Again, there'll be a full in-depth class changes video coming up soon, because there's a massive amount of changes, but I'll hit you with the most important one first here, and that's the Marksmanship Hunter rework. This means a lot to me. It's my
Yeah,
old main,
Hunter's
and I'm
got some
very
love.
happy with what they've done. Blizzard are focusing on the core spells here. They're removing button bloat, and they're finally fixing the pet utility problem, which is massive. And it's been tons of fun in the PTR. So Pack Leader has got a full rework to actually summon in animals, right? That's pretty big.
Damn.
BM has also lost the damage over time build in favor of more AoE options. Survival has lost the bleed from Pack Leader, so they've basically got that back as a talent, while their AoE choices have been cleaned up a little bit. It's a little more mixed than the other hunters, but MM is basically an unambiguous win, and you can check out our full video on that. Then the Demon Hunters. You guys have got some core changes that massively improve your gameplay. Basically, you start inertia windows with Vengeful Retreat and Fellblade instead of Immolation Aura and Fell Rush. It is massively more playable, and you can check out our video if you want to know just how big that is in terms of game feel. Then the Druids. You guys have got a long overdue class tree revamp. It solves a whole ton of problems, and it even fixes the damage weaving problems that Resto had, which is pretty nice. Then Ogvoker. Ogvoker, yes, as I said, has finally lost the tank and healing buff privileges because they were just a little bit naughty and they were hoarding all of the mythic.
Here's the thing, though. Tanking and healing is already hard enough. You take away augmentation evoker buffs. I mean, what the fuck? I don't know what it is with Blizzard lately. With just they did buff tank damage and stuff like that, so maybe they're trying. But tanking and healing right now in the game feels like a second job. It is tough, man. It is really tough, and they've taken away a lot of the fun of it because you used to be, at least be a tank and be like, okay, I can survive anything. And just keep going, even though I can't pump damage as big as the DPS dealers, but it doesn't feel like that anymore. You feel like a squishy aggro stick, which is kind of shit.
Plus spots.
We'll see if they fix it.
It does dilute their identity a little bit, but let's be real, Blizzard are clearly not going in the direction of having lots of support specs. This now is just, I suppose, a DPS spec. It still has got lots of pros and lots of utility, so it's really another option, ideally, rather than a meta-defining thing that pushes other classes and specs out of the game. Mages then, you guys see changes all over the place with Frostfire fixes and hero talents, Arcane getting another wave of changes.
Yeah, Mage is in a great place.
Weirdness. This time's definitely going to be the last time. I'm sure Blizzard won't have to change that spell again. Maybe. We'll see. Touch wood. Then Fire also is getting some love. The TLDR basically has less access to fun spells, but your wet noodle fireballs might do some actual damage now, which is at least nice. Frost then has finally found the pills to give it bigger, longer, and harder hitting blizzards, which is pretty good, as well as some fixes to spell slingers. And then most importantly, Fingers of Frost Ice Lances don't consume Winter's Chill, which is going to take some relearning for your muscle memory, but it should feel better. Moving on then, we got the monks. So Windwalker gets the Slicing Wind spell from Plunderstorm. Yeah, gets that in as a new damage-dealing replacement for Flying Serpent Kick, as well as a whole ton of tuning changes. Then, Enhancement Shamans.
By the way, is that the first chargeable, because that's going to be a chargeable ability, you click and hold just like it was in Plunderstorm. Is this confirmation of the first class that's gotten a chargeable ability outside of Evoker? Because, Evoker has their chargeable Dragon's Breath and all that shit. Correct me if I'm wrong, no other class has had a chargeable ability yet, right? Like, Monk getting this is the first one outside of Evoker to have a click and hold. Yeah, it's the first one outside of Evoker. Okay, yeah, that's a big deal. Because I feel like that means eventually every single class in the game is going to have some type of click and hold ability, which to me is pretty cool. It adds some dynamicness to the game. You're wrong. Am I? No, am I? I thought there was another. I'd name it if there is another. I don't think so. I don't think there's another click hold ability outside of Evoker right now. Earthen have a racial that is a charge. Okay, so that would be the second. But I wouldn't say that's an ability. Racials aren't necessarily part of a rotation. Yeah, Earthen does. Okay. So that's a class, but that's a racial ability, not a class ability. But this is the first, I guess I should preface, class ability outside of Evoker class. Okay.
As well as a whole ton of tuning changes. Then
any class that plays an Earthen.
Shamans.
Yeah, for a racial.
Look, you guys have basically got a textbook worth of updates to read. There's a lot. But Blizzard are moving some damage away from your Maelstrom weapons towards your actual melee hits, which I suppose is pretty good, and some of your procs have been made a bit more reliable. Plus, a huge change to the screen glow vomit. Now, your in-game overlays and highlights actually make some sense.
Imagine that, seeing things.
Gameplay readability. And on that, visual updates. Whenever I initially talked about it, the lightning bolt was a little bit controversial, but they've actually changed that again. And I'd certainly say that These are looking good. Man, between the spell effects and the sound effects, playing Shaman just feels awesome.
Man, World of Warcraft just has the best combat effects of any MMO out there. By far. Like, even just as rudimentary as swinging an axe and hitting something. It's one of the core things about WoW that just makes it the best MMO, is that their abilities and the way things hit and the way things feel when you cast them and the animations and everything, they're just S tier. They're so good.
Finally then, at least for the major changes,
that's a stretch. I don't think so.
Healers have got paragraph after paragraph of text to study. Mistweavers are coming into 11.1 actually pretty damn happy. They've got a whole ton of improvements, some new options as well, and Resto Shamans have got some of their button bloat resolved. Then priests. So both priest healers got huge revamps actually, and these are mostly focusing on consolidating power out of raid cooldowns and removing button bloat, which I would certainly say as an ex-disc healing main, yeah, pretty good thing. Of course, we'll be back in a few days with a video covering everything, so wish us luck making that one, and with that said, goblins. Yeah, I should probably talk about the game outside of just instanced content. So, the Undermine story quests are actually pretty damn good, but there is a caveat.
I'm excited to do
They
these.
are a broad enough departure from the expansion story. Now, it does further some core elements here, but it's quite focused on Undermine and the story of the goblins. So if you've wanted goblins with real personality and story, this is going to be great news. And I don't mean that in the, oh, goblins, they're joke characters, lols, haha. No, there's drama, character moments. There's compelling, like, city rotting from the inside storylines of, you know, incentives and allegiances, all the different cartels. If you just let yourself get into it, it's actually pretty damn class. And as a zone, Undermine is also great. It's small, actually, but it is dense. It is densely packed with stuff to do. And because of that, if you're drifting around, man, you'll just get everywhere super fast. But if you don't enjoy the new goblin driving, you'll still be able to get around
so
real fast on your regular ground
ridiculous.
mounts, which is certainly a good thing. In terms of what you'll be doing then, well, there is reputation to farm. Of course, it's a WoW patch. There's rep then with each of the 4 goblin cartels. Some of these are the usual. Have you heard this before? Rares, world quests, and treasures.
Yeah,
there's that. But there's actually some other stuff to spice it up a bit. There are scrap activities, which basically are digging through scrap in inventive ways, either by hand or with explosives. Those shake things up a little bit. You've then got shipping and handling quests, which are basically just mini quests
Crazy
that you
taxi.
do while you're driving around. Honestly, it's basically World of Warcraft mixed in with a little bit of Grand Theft Auto and a little bit of Crazy Taxi.
Yeah.
In fact, if this patch
I didn't pre-watch this, but that's when I see the arrow above the vehicle, that's what I think. Crazy Taxi.
Years ago, I guess, actually Sega could sue World of Warcraft because World of Warcraft does use the...
Oh my god, he's showing a patent? Hold on. Fuck, my fucking profession finally comes into effect here. This is fucking expired in 2018. So this expired in 2018. That means they can't sue anybody beyond 6 years beyond 2018. Right, so I mean, you want to do some math. So 2024 would be the last time that they could have sued somebody for infringing, and the infringement on their patent would have had to happen between 2018 and 1998. So, yeah, I know Bailar's making a patent joke here, but he made the joke in front of the wrong person. This is what I fucking do. They can't sue him. The patent expired too long ago.
The floaty arrow that Sega had patented from 1999 all the way until 2018, and they even sued Simpsons Road Rage for using it.
Yeah, that's
okay,
pretty
that
good,
was a
yeah.
tangent. Back to World of Warcraft.
Patent
All of these
tangent, I
then
wasn't expecting
are parts
that.
of the new weeklies that are for rep and the new Undermine Renown track. There's a 5th cartel as well. They're called Dark Fuse Solutions, but they've actually been disabled in the PTR. Now, given the lore involved with the Dark Fuse, maybe
Learn
this
something
will
new
unlock
every day,
after
that's
the
right.
raid does, but it basically seems like Blizzard have got some sort of surprise there. Finally then, we've got checklists. These are weekly checklists of some simple activities that you can tick off.
Yeah, these will be
for a
fun.
bonus
Valor Stones.
250 Valor Stones. At least at the start, because there's actually a way to upgrade this, so you'll get even more Valor Stones, but basically nobody's figured out how to do that just yet. But what is there to actually get? Because if you're thinking, well, this sounds like the usual fare, why should I bother? Number one, it does actually feel a little different because of the driving and just the different framing of
No, I'm not a
things,
boomer, I'm a
like your
millennial.
checklists and stuff, but Blizzard do know that you need a new type of carrot to chase, and, well, they've made a whole new type of carrot. In your collection window, you are going to find a whole new category called Warband Campsites. You'll actually unlock a second one for free just by logging into the game, and then there'll be 3 more to collect in this patch. One is the Galagio, which is our new raid, and that will require finishing basically a mini meta achievement for clearing up the zone.
I want to get this one. It's pretty cool.
Then there's another one, which is for finishing the Delver's Journey this season, and another one on top of that, which is a new mini meta achievement for Khazalgar. That's the big new thing, but there are loads of other collectibles as well.
Screens.
Number 1, class sets. And there's actually good news here. Instead of just making everything goblins, monk, but goblin raid, Blizzard have actually stuck to our class sets being themed after our classes, which is good because
it's good, but I don't mind it being themed after by the way, the rogue set is fucking unbelievable. This is the best one of them all, and I mean monks get to be Super Saiyan, so that's cool too. But overall, I kind of wish that they just had a bit of a goblin touch to them. These look like sets that literally the Death Knight set looks like it comes out of Shadowlands, which gives me PTSD. Now, I'm not saying it's not a cool set. I'm not going to get it. Fuck yeah, it's a great set. I'm going to get it. It looks badass. But I kind of wish like it had a bit of a goblin-esque theme to it. I think kind of some of the open world gear and stuff we're going to get from this patch is a little bit cooler than the tier sets themselves. But they're not bad. They're not bad. They just don't look like they're coming from this area.
Raid. Blizzard have actually stuck to our class sets being themed after our classes, which is good, because if they were all goblins, it really would not have made sense. I think the highlights for this season are the Death Pirate look for rogues, which is awesome, and the real ornate monk set, which has got some
super. It's fucking Goku. Like if you're gonna tell me this is not Goku right here, Super Saiyan. They even have the orange in there. I mean, it's literally what it is. They're not even trying to hide it.
Cool, like exposed sort of chest Super Saiyan stuff. I like it. I think its helm is going to be really awesome. Just lots of use in Mogs as well. But outside of that, there are, of course, these pretty gorgeous looking outdoor sets. They're really drilling in
these
on
look
the classic
really cool.
Goblin look. You've got weapons that are covered in rockets and just everything you could want from Goblin weapons, basically. And as for the other stuff to farm, well, you've got loads of mounts and loads of pets, including the Mythic Gallywix mount, which really is incredible this time around, but there are, of course, loads of others to collect. That's not all, though. We've got changes to UI and a bunch of other miscellaneous things to wrap this video up with. If you want more, we've got a full video on the UI changes, but here's the main stuff. And this first one isn't really UI, it is gameplay feel though, and it's swirlies. Look at these swirlies.
This is huge,
These are the new ground swirlies, and they're a humongous
so much better
improvement. You can actually see they've got a clear outline, so you'll know where your character is standing.
Now, it's not going to change the fact that if somebody's in the middle of parsing the rotation and they're standing right here, they're not going to move. They're going to stand in the circle vag and just die. That's not going to change. I already know that. You guys are a bunch of degenerates, but at least if you're trying to do the mechanics, you'll be able to do them better now.
You can actually see they've got a clear outline, so you'll know where your character is standing. Like, will you get hit by the ability or not? That is a massive improvement. Another interesting
they took way too long to make this
the
change.
war on add-ons, as I dramatically put it, is continuing, but with a little asterisk. So obviously Blizzard are supporting add-ons, but they are doing things to catch the problematic add-ons. And that's in the form of improved add-on window and loads of performance profiling tools. So if an add-on is making your game lag or stutter, you'll be able to work out why. Also, we've got a new event tab. Look at this thing, it's awesome. Now, this shows events that are happening in the War Within for now. Basically just, there's lots of things on a timer, right? And you won't miss them. But the real win is the tab system. Take a look at this, right? You can switch between these different tabs. Add-ons can hook into that and add their own tabs, which basically just means you can have add-ons that don't really feel like they're messing up the WoW UI. And if you've got any ideas for what to put in this tab, let us know. Because we've been making add-ons. They're internal ones for our own use that help us capture some lovely camera angles, but yeah, we can make add-ons now. Let me know if there's anything you'd like. The next change then is huge. It's big for professions because respecking is actually in the game. You can only do it once, which Blizzard are basically doing to stop people cheesing because there would be loads of just exploits you could do. But the point is, if you've got a completely...
You got to stop the degens from G-genning, so you got to put limits on things. That's how WoW players work.
Like profession build in your characters, you can fix it in this patch, which is awesome. And that is pretty much everything that we know of. Blizzard are making tweaks here and there to little things, so the release will be a little bit different, but this is all the major features and content. And if you want to go into 11.1 fully prepared, check out our last video, because there is something bubbling under the surface in terms of story. We think we found it, and it's going to be relevant. So watch that next.
I guess one thing that I could say to summarize this video is the difference between 11.0 And 11.1 is probably the biggest change we've seen in this game ever for just straight up a 0.1 patch. Like, this is stuff we usually see in expansions, so I think 11.1 is going to be good. I'm excited for it.